Hello, everyone. You're listening to Financial Marketing Secrets with Jenesis Gems, and I'm Jenny Pierce. I'm extremely excited today to be actually talking to a young, up and coming, well, maybe not young, but certainly up and coming financial advisor in the financial advice space, and that's Corey Wastle from Verse Wealth. Welcome, Corey. It's lovely to have you on.
Hey, Jenny. Great to be here, and thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Looking forward to the chat. My
pleasure. I've been watching you, Corey, for quite some time, and we've obviously crossed paths over many years at industry events, award events, things like that. You are an a multi-award winning financial advice practice, and you have been doing this for a little longer than a short while. So why don't you share with me and our listeners a little bit about the story of Corey Wastle and Verse Wealth?
Sure. I'll try and give you the really short version of both those. I guess from a professional point of view, I got into advice back in 2011. I started at one of the big four banks. I was what was called a servicing financial planner for the first 12 months. So basically an associate advisor. A year later, I was in the retail branch network advising retail clients. And I was in that role for about 2.5 years before I left and started Verse. The motivation in doing that at that point in time was, I guess, when I started at one of the big banks, it was kind of towards the tail end of a difficult period for that advice business, a difficult period for financial advice generally. There were a bunch of financial planning scandals, circling around the news, and probably rightly so, on reflection. And I was dealing with things like retail bank customers walking into the branch, and they'd seen a headline earlier that day, and they're yelling out at me as the advisor sitting in the corner office. And I saw this real skepticism attached to advice, and I saw a real gap between what was being delivered to clients of advice and the value of advice and the quality of the experience relative to what it could be. And part of that was a consequence of some of, I guess, the conflicts that were undermining the quality of the advice and the quality of the experience. And for me, my motivation in starting Verse was, how do we help change what it means to be an advisor? How do we help change what it means to get advice? And take this, at least based on my very narrow experience at that point, take a relatively two-dimensional meat and potatoes type financial planning experience and try and turn it into something that's 3D or 4D. Make it more personal, make it more impactful, make it far more valuable. And if we do that, we'll start to erode some of the skepticism, and we'll start to shift what it means to be an advisor and what it means to get advice. And if we do those things, more people will want advice. And we know that when advice is done well, it can have a profound impact on one's life. And for some people at the right time, it can be transformational too. So that was, I guess, the purpose and the motivation behind starting Verse back in 2015 now. So we're talking nine years ago, condensing those 9 years into a couple of shorts. And I've gone half grey. I've worked my tail off, as has a team that we've got now. We've got a team of maybe, I think, 22 or 23. We focus from day one on, more than anything, culture and client experience. I know that probably the core tenets of what we'll chat about today, Jenny. Our clients are generally either high-income professionals, 35, 55, making good money, trying to set themselves up, want to have a plan, want to feel like their money's working for them, not just working for their money. The other group of clients are predominantly pre-retirees, more that traditional financial planning client, 55 plus, thinking about retirement, wanting to make sure they're set up for the future, want to make sure they're going to be okay. And we've built and continue to work on improving our own version of advice and our own client experience.
It sounds to me like Verse Wealth is in very good hands by what you've just described there. And I know our subject matter for today's conversation is not specifically about this, but I'm interested that you obviously started in the banking sector, and the pathway into financial advice today is so very, very different. And, we have to work a lot harder to attract, I guess, the future rising stars of advice. What was it that really incentivized you to actually step into it? Was it more about just going into the banking sector, or was there always a bit of a passion of around money? What was the incentive?
Yeah, so I guess going back a little bit further, in growing up, I guess I would characterize myself as someone that was always a hard worker. I was always a saver. I grew up in a household that was quite money conscious. And a lot of the money principles were built around hard work, save, think about the future. And some of that come at the cost of enjoying your life and leaning into experiences.
Mm.
And I guess I started working early, started saving money early. I started investing early. So I was 17 when I started investing. My pop, who's since passed away, helped get me into the share market, AFIC. So AFI.
Wow.
It was my first ever stock back in the day. I had a margin loan, I think it may be 18.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I was, in those couple of years, which actually preceded the GFC, I was preaching to plenty of friends around the merits of, investing, and trying to think about the future. And for me, I guess I always felt like, I wanted to live my own version of a great life, and money was probably the thing that was most likely to get in the way of me being able to do that, do the things I want to do, limit some of the stresses, limit some of the compromises. And I think, like everyone, I had people in my own life, parents included, that had a lot of stresses and compromises because of the way they managed money, and didn't want that for myself. So I guess that was my motivation to get money and do well with money. And I saw that as being something that was really impactful in one's life. So I did marketing and PR and communications at university at Monash. I didn't intend to be in finance, but as I was spending my 5 years at uni, I developed a real passion for investing, share markets, etc. And when I finished my double degree, I actually made the decision at that point to get into financial planning for the reasons I just mentioned. And I guess I haven't looked back since.
And here you are today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's actually a really cool segue, because not every financial advice business or financial advisor or CEO of Verse Wealth you are, has the intuitive nature around marketing that I feel you have. And we've had conversations around this, and I've enjoyed, watching, that evolution piece around Verse Wealth in regards to your marketing and your messaging particularly. So I wanted to do a deeper dive and focus on, I guess, the core conversation today, which is unveiling the power trio: team culture, client experience, and marketing strategies, and how that's played out for you. Because obviously that those core values that were your wonderful pop and your family have obviously embedded into you as a young man, and you've picked those up, and you've translated that into an incredible career.
Thanks, Jenny. Where would you like me to start there?
So I want us to open the discussion with, I guess, team culture, because we've spoken a little bit about Verse Wealth already, and you've spoken a little bit about, obviously the grey hair and the successes, but building team culture is it's a big thing, particularly in today's world. And obviously going from a very small enterprise to a business which has 22, 23 staff, or a team, is not a small leap. So how about we start there?
Yeah, sure. Well, in terms of like culture, I mean, it's a word that gets bandied around a lot. And I think, firstly, it means different things to different people. And secondly, I think the level of importance placed on the concept of culture varies greatly. In terms of what's always been true for me, is that if you get people and culture right, or you, at the very least, you do it very well, everything else gets a little bit easier. You know, business, and anyone that's in business knows how damn hard it is.
Mm.
It's just a constant stream of challenges and problem solving and stresses and things not going the way that you want or anticipated. So the challenges are relentless. But if you have the right people on board and they're an environment that helps them realize their potential and they work cohesively as a team,
Mm.
deliver great client or customer experiences to solve problems, they go the extra mile, they care deeply about their team, about their clients, most things are going to get a bit easier. And when I say most things, like the things that I'm talking about is customer service. I'm talking about the client experience. I'm talking about acquiring talent and great people. I'm talking about being able to market your business, because these things are hard enough as they are. So I guess, you know, like I grew up as one of 5 boys, and both my parents were, you know, I guess athletes / sports people.
Mm-hmm.
And so sport was always a really big passion for me. And there's a bunch of team sports I grew up watching. And what always seemed to be evident to me, at least, was that the teams that were successful on a consistent basis, or the organizations that were, they were the ones that got people and culture right, which is like, if that was a coin, the other side of that is leadership.
Mm.
And you get people, culture, and leadership right, you can sustain success for a longer period of time. So as an example, that's a football team. Maybe over 10, 15, 20 years, the players come and go, but maybe the president, CEO, the coach, and maybe 1 or 2 captains help create the culture and help attract the right people and get those people rowing in the same direction. And they're able to do great things.
Mm.
And if there is that level of continuity between those people over a long period of time, they can achieve some really great success. So before we started back in 2015, we had these views around the importance of people and culture. And one of the things we first did was try and document and express what kind of culture do we want, you know, and we initially define that by our verse values, and we still in part define it by our values, but the values themselves don't tell you everything about culture. They're some important pillars though. So we had 8 verse values when we started. We've got 5 now, and they've gradually evolved over time as we've evolved, just like a person or a family does. And, you know, they've become hallmarks of what life is like at Verse. And you know, I think now, fast forward, you know, not 9 years, the focus that we've had on trying to get the culture right, trying to get the environment right, making a great place to work for people, it's enabled us to get great people into the team to help them maximize their potential, you know, and that leads to success, which leads to better people. And there's just all these downstream effects that come when you do have that focus on getting the people right and getting the culture right.
So you've obviously, I mean, you know, yeah, I was interested that you know you've obviously downsized the core values from 8 to 5, and I
Oh,
think that's fairly typical of the number that most people within small business tend to hover around 5.
yeah.
And I think that's because it's also a manageable outcome. You know, you can actually embed that into your business and you can live it. Daily. Which, from a leadership perspective, I guess you've had to embrace a process as you bring new team members on, to allow them to, I mean, I was going to say the word indoctrinate, but that's a forced feeling. I feel like it's, the sense I get from you is that your core values are much more palpable, and therefore it's an easier embrace. But is there a process that you take your team through when they come on board?
There is. I mean, to to manifesting the culture you want, that's very multifaceted. It's not like you just do one thing and then it works. It's kind of like, how do you have a good relationship? Well, it's a long list of different things, and it's a delicate ecosystem, a culture, just like a relationship is. Some of the things that we do, as part of the hiring process, we have what's called a cultural interview. So that is typically the candidate sitting down, having a coffee or a lunch with 3 verse teammates. I'm never involved in the cultural interviews. And the idea of the cultural interview is that the 3 verse teammates are trying to work out, is this person going to fit in our team and our culture? And they're getting to know them on hopefully a really personal level. And they're asking themselves just some really basic questions. And they'll ask these questions of each other once the candidate's left. And they're things like, do we really want to work with them? Are they going to make this a better place to work? Am I excited to work with them? Like, is it going to feel like a forever home for them? Are they aligned? Are they like, we've got our 5 values. Like, are they going to live these values? Like, let's read them out now. Like, total transparency, they're going to be able to live that. Never settle. Do they have a growth mindset? And if any one of those teammates thinks that the candidate won't fit and thrive in our culture for any reason, we won't hire them. And that doesn't happen that often, because I'm not going to book in a cultural interview with 3 of our teammates that already meet someone that they're going to think is very misaligned. But there's been occasions where one or multiple teammates have said, Corey, I don't think they're going to fit.
Yeah.
For this reason or these reasons. And I've said, okay, well, I'll let them know. And what's happening there is the cultural interview is a symbol to acknowledge that the culture is everyone's. It's not mine, it's everyone's. And everyone has the right, but also the responsibility to protect it and look after it and nurture it. And because it is a great place to work from their perspective, they want to keep it so.
Yes.
To keep it so they take it really, really seriously.
Yes.
Who we hire. So we do the cultural interview as part of the hiring process. But
I love that.
You can't leave that there, of course. And when you're actually in the team, I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that we do, but I guess just a few things to share here. Number one is, like, with the values, often they're just words that hang on a wall in a lot of workplaces, unfortunately. From our point of view, they really are quite well integrated into what life is like here at Verse. It's not the job of the teammates to live them perfectly. They're a reference point for how they show up, for how they interact with each other, for how they interact with clients, for how they make some decisions when maybe they could go left or they could go right. So the values themselves, the 5 of them, each have guiding principles and behaviors. And the guiding principles and behaviors, they've been put together by a team. So, as an example, if we talk about total transparency being a value, like, guiding principles and behaviors are things like openly share your feelings and ideas, be willing to say the hard things, get to the truth quickly, open to feedback, never bottle important stuff. So the guiding principles and behaviors make the value actually committable. You can look at it and go, okay, well, like, this is not wishy-washy. I can see how I can actually live this on a daily basis. So they're both committable, but they're also aspirational. And they're aspirational in the sense that no one's going to live them perfectly. And the values are who we are, but at the same time, they're us at our best, or who we really want to be. So, as an example, again, just using total transparency here, total transparency is really hard. It's the hardest of our 5 values to live, because it's incongruent with, like, how human beings are wired. Like, we're wired to be like social creatures rather than transparent creatures. So if you go back 1,000 years ago and you're part of the tribe, and you see the tribe leader, you catch the tribe leader, off having an affair with someone within the tribe. If you then go and, shout that out from the hills to the tribe, you're going to get banished from the tribe, and that's kind of a certain death for you. This is an extreme example, but I'm sharing this.
That is a very extreme example.
I'm sharing that as an example, a simple one to highlight the fact that often we're incentivized to not be totally transparent.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
We want to keep the peace. We want to have friends. We want to fit in. We don't want to be ostracized. So, as an example, touch transparency is hard, but it's a worthy pursuit. That's why it's aspirational. So all of the values have their own level of kind of aspiration built into them, but they're committable as well. And then you've got to integrate them into life. You've got to constantly acknowledge when they're being lived. You've got to share that amongst team. You've got to try and develop some of your own internal language, which we've done over time. Just simple things like we're teammates, not colleagues. We don't use terms like employer, employee, boss, staff. If you join the team and you mention the word colleagues, you're not in trouble, but someone will tap you on the shoulder.
It's just not natural language for you guys.
Yeah, someone will tap you on the shoulder and say, "Hey, we're not just a group of people that work at the same company. We're actually a real team. There's a real difference." I could go on for a long period of time, but there's, I guess, a couple of examples, Jenny, around how we think about values and how we try and bring them to life.
Yeah, I think what's evident to me is that that you've built an infrastructure that allows people to be their natural self, but you take the best of who they are and you amplify it, and you've used your core values and as part of that process. And I think that's why I know that you now translate that, or that translates, I should say, into client experience, because if you can be open and transparent with it as a team, then you can be open and transparent with your clients. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, we were talking about this when we caught up a few weeks back, is that in the long run, culture is like the foundation. People and culture is the foundation to everything else. And I say in the long run because on a day-to-day basis, or if you take a very short lens to something, culture is not that important, which is why it's easy to make short-sighted decisions at times. They might not feel short-sighted in the moment, but in the long run, they might look short-sighted. So people and culture are the foundation to everything else. And you build things from foundations. So the client experience, in so many ways, is built on the foundations of the people and culture. And and I guess what I mean there is, if you want to give people a great customer or client experience, you've got to have people that love working in that business.
Correct.
And you've got to have people that are great at their job. So, using, I guess, like a restaurant as an example we're all going to be really familiar with. You go to the restaurant and you're hopefully thinking about lots of different elements of the experience. Elements from, how we greeted when we walk in. Is the table ready for us? Is the waiter or the waitress, do they seem happy and energized? Do they really want us to be in there? Or are they making us feel like we're getting in the way of their day? When we ask a question about a meal on the menu to say, "Hey, what's this like?" Do they really know the meal? Or are they going to bluff their way through that conversation? Or are they just going to say, "Ma'am, I don't know." How fast does the meal come out? How well is it plated up? How good is the meal in the first place? How clean are the dishes? What do the toilets and the bathrooms look like? Do they have soap in the dispenser? Or do I have to go to the toilet and then I use the soap dispenser and there's nothing in there? So there's a million elements to a customer or a client experience, and they all go together to create the client experience. And those things only happen well if you have the right people in the role and they want to be there and they're happy to be there. So when you're in a restaurant or a cafe, it should be really obvious to you, does this organization have great culture, great leadership? Because it's evident in everything. It permeates its way through everything. So, in the long run, if you want to have a great client experience, you can't do that without having. I think
you mentioned a few minutes ago, that everybody in the team is responsible for culture. And I think inversely, everyone in the team is responsible for a quality client experience. It's sort of everyone has their role to play, whether it's making sure the soap dispenser's full or the greeting at the door is correct or the quality of the meal on the plate is what you anticipate. I think, as you say, that connection, that bond between team culture and client experience is uniquely about how you've embedded those core values in the first place, how they've adopted them and they live them.
Yeah. You said that really well. It's better than I could have said it. And it's like, when you think about the client experience, I think maybe there's two paradigms in which you can think about the client experience. One is the one that we're talking about there, which is all the little things, and Michael Back, one of my favorite humans on the planet.
Me too.
He would always say the little things are the big things.
Yes.
And when you think about your own customer experiences, it's really true. The little things are the big things. So we've spent the last couple of minutes there talking about the little things, and they all matter. And then you have the big things. So the other paradigm in terms of client experience is like, I guess from a financial advice firm point of view, is like, what client experience are we building and constructing? Like, i.e. at Verse, we have one single client experience essentially for every client. It's built on values, intentions, financial well-being. We've digitized lots of elements of it. There's an organized way that someone goes from getting to the website to booking in a free 30-minute intro chat to being communicated with between that booking and that chat, setting expectations, capturing information, having that chat, following up from that chat, preparing for the next meeting, engaging with the associate, then the advisor, and how that next meeting runs and what happens after that next meeting. All that's organized and consistent and repeatable, and a lot of parts of that are digitized. So that's us looking at the client experience from like the top down, like from a macro point of view, and trying to build a client experience. But you could have that top-down macro view of your client experience and put some really neat stuff in place. But if you don't have the people and culture right, i.e. people that are on the ground, like behind the steering wheel, having high standards, really, truly caring about every client experience, going the extra mile, then it's kind of all for naught in a sense. So you need kind of like, you need the big picture, client experience, well organized, structure element, right? And then you need the people on the ground doing the little things that all add up well. And those two, I guess I'm calling them paradigms here, whether that's right or wrong, they work together to be a great
I think
to be a great client experience. And I know we're going to talk about marketing at some point, because like all these things, culture, client experience, marketing, they're all codependent upon each other. Like you can't separate them out into individual buckets. They're reliant on each other.
Which is why they're the power trio in any business, to be whether it's financial advice or not. But I think that's why they are such a power trio, because without one working correctly, the others won't work at all. So I think there's one other thing that I just wanted to mention about client experience and the connection with team culture is also your clear understanding of who it is you're working with, as far as your clients, as far as the clients you're set to serve. So, there's a lot to be said about really understanding that this is the style of client that we're here to support, because you can't be all things to all people. Many have tried. But I think that's another thing that, having, and this kind of leads into, I guess, that third element of the power trio, is that marketing side of things, is that by understanding who you are working with, those people that you're set to serve, that you're able to lift the team culture and bring the client experience and then amplify it so others can see it. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would. I mean, you can't be all things to all people. And if you're going to resonate in a strong way with someone or a group of people, you can't do that with everyone.
Mm.
You need to know who you're serving, who you're speaking to, how to speak to them.
Yeah.
But you've got to make sure that in doing that, you're still true to who you are.
Mm.
Like often, I think often businesses will think about marketing the wrong way around. They're kind of like, all right, well, like, how do people want us to like behave and act, and what do they want us to say? And then we'll try and pretend like we're doing that because they'll like us more. But it doesn't really work that way. Marketing is really more than anything about expressing who you are,
Mm.
and making sure that you know who it is that's going to resonate with who you are, and trying to build a connection between you and you and them.
I think that's also how you create the memorable experiences. So, both from an internal perspective, from the team perspective, because, when they've had, a great moment for a client, or they've achieved something throughout their day, that transparency piece, they can share it knowing that it's not about a competition. It's about, look, I've actually lived the values of the business. But on the flip side of that, you're able to tell that story so other people that are having similar experiences can go, well, this is the right business or the right people for me to be working with. So I do think it's about the memories, those memorable moments that you create.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, all advisors are creating some form of memorable experiences. How memorable they are and how impactful they are will really vary. In marketing, quote unquote, like you need to be showcasing those memorable experiences and showcasing how you help people solve the real problems in their life around money, and showcasing the impact that advice and guidance has had on their life. Like that's part of how you need to market. But like coming back to the connection between client experience and marketing, you've got to do the client experience bit really well to make yourself marketable.
Mm.
Because, I think, again, like in the case of, say, financial advice firms, there's a lot of firms out there that are trying to get better at marketing. But I think really you need to be focused on being marketable. And being marketable is having a great client experience. That's what you're ultimately marketing. And the better the client experience is, the easier it actually gets to market it. So, like, I guess from our point of view, to add a few examples to that is when you go to our website, all of the imagery on the website, they're all real clients. And they're all real clients in like what we would call their natural habitat. So we've
Yeah.
got Rob and Sue on their bikes on a Saturday morning in Blackrock going down Beach Road in Victoria. We've got the Richardson family at home, in their pajamas, playing board games and playing pool, the guitar. We've got James and Jeff, in their Richmond home, playing with the kids, playing video games. We've got Linda out in Elwood, at one of her favorite cafes. And the reason why we've been able to get those clients to give up their time and I guess display that level of vulnerability, i.e. I'm willing to be having my photos taken in the first place.
Mm.
I'm willing for that to be put online and used
Mm.
for marketing, not just on a website, but on social media and on YouTube and in other places, is because they've had such a valuable client experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
So much trust has been built up. And then when you look at maybe some of the videos you might see on the website with clients, but you might also see those videos in places like YouTube and maybe Facebook ads and places like that. Those videos have like a real depth to them. Like people are
Mm.
talking a real conviction around the value of advice in their life and how impactful the experience has been. And sometimes talking like really emotively about it. And like we can't force them to do that. We can't force them to get behind the camera, but we can't force them to like stoke this emotion in the viewer, or connect with the viewer in this way. Again, they're speaking about those things in that way because of the client experience. And like
Yes.
a third example here would be Google reviews. So like we get a lot of leads via Google. Some of that's paid Google ads. A lot of that is just organic traffic via just via SEO and ranking on page one and ranking high. And a big part of us being able to rank high and get the level of traffic to our website that we get is because of the Google reviews.
Yeah.
Like Google reviews, you can't force someone to leave a Google review. And even if you've incentivized them to perhaps leave a review, the difference between them like clicking 5 stars and saying it was really good, as opposed to like really sharing their experience.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this has been one of the best things we've ever done. We've worked with so-and-so in the team there, and they really have taken the time to know us in a way that we didn't anticipate and really helped us personalize our choices. And we wish we'd done this so many years before. We've been telling all our friends about, so-and-so or verse. If you're a consumer trying to find the right advisor and you read a review like that, very quickly you're thinking, hang on, I think maybe I'm in the right place, but I better read a few more reviews.
Yeah.
So then you scroll down and you read the next review, and it's kind of similar in terms of its depth and conviction. You're like, oh, I really think I'm in the right place here.
Yeah.
So like one might look at these reviews and go, oh, that's really good marketing.
Yeah.
It's actually, it's not really. It's
just people being honest.
it's just the client experience being marketed, or the client experience itself is marketable. So, again, like coming back to that codependency between client experience and marketing, I mean, in the long run, they're two sides of the same coin.
So I'm going to pick up a couple of threads there, just because I think they're important to really relate. When we first caught up, I said to you, I'd been through your website, and I said to you that I mentioned the word soothing, that it was such a soothing experience to go through your website and get to know, and obviously I was looking for slightly different things, perhaps, but I did try to put myself in the shoes of a potential client. I thought, I'm going to just be the client for a moment. Is this the right business for me? And I found the whole experience quite soothing. And after we got off chatting, I thought about that a fair bit more. I thought, why was it so soothing? And I think it was the relatability of the imagery, but also that the text was easy to digest. It was not complex. There was complexity where it needed to be, as in more of an authority, that you were experienced people and you knew what you were doing. So that was right. But it was easy to digest. It wasn't overly complex. It was easy to relate to. And I think that, and again, I did the whole read some of these Google reviews, and I was like, oh, like, where do I sign up? This is me. I need to sign up now. Do I click a button and what's next? And that was also very easy. So I do agree with you about the connection. The client experience is your marketing, or part of your marketing. But I think that actually gets down to your brand. And I feel like, your brand is made up of those three things, team culture, client experience, and obviously your strategy, your marketing, which is your voice. And I feel like you've coined that quite well. And I guess I want to know, as obviously someone that has done a double degree, have you stepped into, like, did you really intentionally step into doing a strategy around your brand and around your digital marketing, or was it sort of an evolution piece for you?
We've never sat down and workshopped like, how do we want to market this business?
No.
How do we want to appear in front of consumers? for us, I think part of how we've, I guess, become marketable in financial advice, at least, is because from day one, we've had a real purpose.
Yeah.
We've really stood for something that, over time has become, like, it's been evident that it connects with consumers. So going back to the start of our conversation around why I left CBA and what I and we really wanted advice to be, and what we really wanted what it meant to be an advisor. And that's been the driving force behind how we've built the client experience and how we've committed to every client experience. And I think that I'm not throwing us in the bucket of some of the great brands out there at all, but I think when you think about great brands, they all stand for something, right? So if it's Nike, like I'm putting words in Nike's mouth here, but like they stand for athletic greatness.
Yeah.
Or if it's Apple, like they stand for challenging the status quo. Or if it's Disney, like they stand for creating happiness and sparking imagination, creating kids and people. And doesn't matter how many touch points you have with Nike, how many ads you see, how many sneakers you see or wear, how many athletes you see doing their thing and being great on the big stage. There's consistency. Elements, like they all tie back to some sense of purpose or some philosophy. And I guess for us, we've had that sense of purpose and we've had that clarity around purpose, intention, philosophy from the get-go. And we haven't lost that. We've just built our business in part fueled by that. And that, I think, is part of what's enabled us to connect with at least certain segments of the community of advice seekers out there.
I think you've nailed it. I mean, certainly the power trio, as I said, the team culture, the client experience, the marketing strategy, as you say, I think that comes together and is the brand. And I feel like, it's more evolution sometimes with these things than it is, 9 years on. And I have no doubt that another 9 years on, it'll be different again. So I wanted to just ask you, like, what's on the horizon? Is there something that, as a team or as a business, you're really targeting over the next couple of years or this year? What's on the horizon for you guys?
Yeah, well, I mean, in the long run, we want to be a national firm and a national brand, and I guess continue to move towards that founding vision of changing what it means to be an advisor and changing what it means to get advice. And we're not doing that alone. There's lots of great, progressive, purposeful advisors and firms out there. And fortunately, they're growing in numbers. So that's the longer term vision, and that would have us being a much larger team and firm than we are now. But we can't wave a wand to get to that point. So much of building things is brick by brick and doing the right things well, and the simple things well day by day. In the short term, the next 12, 24 months, we'll continue to grow our team. We've just had a new advisor start this week. Hello, Ria. If you're
wow.
listening, we've got another advisor starting in 2 weeks.
Wow.
And we need to add to our associates and client experience team to support them as well. So the team's continuing to grow, and that team's growing across Melbourne, Sydney, and Brisbane. And we're investing quite heavily in digital marketing. So we run a lot of ads that supports like the organic traffic we get to our website, and that digital marketing, fortunately, is relatively scalable. We can increase what we spend with a pretty good level of predictability around volume of leads, quality of leads, without putting in any more time, right? Like we're not pounding the pavement trying to like nurture relationships with accounts and so on. We can literally increase our ad spend and increase our leads. And because we're familiar with search volumes, Google search volumes across those 3 cities for things like financial planner, Sydney, and retirement planning, Brisbane, and so on, we kind of know how far we can expand that ad spend. And we're adding advisors, and as we add advisors, we increase our ad spend, increase our leads, and then we kind of backfill from there, in a sense, for want of a better term. We're adding the associates and the client experience associates and team and power planners to make sure that we can keep our promises to clients, and the advisors are freed up to see the clients as well.
You must spend a lot of time changing caps, like, is it I mean, I'm assuming you're still seeing some clients yourself.
No, I'm not. I haven't for a couple of years now.
Oh, you've stepped back out of the advice and just manage, I guess CEO is a big enough job, Jenny.
It's my title. My title, but I spend a lot of time trying to look busy. I mean, I have enough hats to wear. Even by stepping out of the advisor role, I still have too many hats on.
Yeah.
Part of, I guess, being a business owner, if you are trying to grow your business, is trying to minimize the amount of hats you wear. But
Yes.
to do that, you've got to have great people. Comes back to people and culture again. You're going to have great people, and then good systems and processes around them, so you can confidently take these hats off and know these things are going to get done well. So I'm very fortunate that we have an amazing team, and we've got a bunch of just exceptional financial advisors. And I'm not saying this because I'm on a podcast and it sounds like a nice thing to say. It's the truth. In advisors that don't need me to see any clients, that are better at the job than I ever was or ever would be. And that enables me to spend more time on other things that help our team, that help our clients, and enable us to become a better business.
Yeah. I think, as I've said to you before, I feel like you are nailing the whole team culture, client experience, and marketing side of things. And my experience as a potential client was such the vibe was just so I was going to say non-threatening, but it wasn't. It was just easy for me to go, this is actually a lovely experience. And I feel like that's the piece in all of this, that it derived an emotion from me that made me want to take another step, which ultimately is what this whole thing is all about. So I think you've done it incredibly well in the work you've done in the last 9 years, and I applaud you. And I wish you all the very best in the future 9 years, or however many. But I did want to ask you, and obviously, as CEO of a burgeoning business, I know you probably got lots of little tips, tricks, and gems that you would like to share. But is there a piece of advice, that you would recommend if you're just getting out there and you want to take a leap of faith, get started, help people see advice differently? What would you recommend people have a go at?
To clarify, Jenny, this is for the advisor that's decided to take that leap of faith and do their own thing.
Yep.
Okay. Fortunately, it seems to me, and hopefully to you, that there's more and more advisors in the last year or two beginning to do this again.
Yes.
Which is great. And I'm seeing a lot of those advisors on LinkedIn and social media, and hearing that they're on TikTok. I've never been on there. I've heard it's a bit of a black hole, but it's great to see that happening. In terms of, like, I guess, a piece of advice, it's difficult to just give one bit of advice, I guess. I think if you are going to get out there and do your own thing, the reality is that in the short term, as a business owner, you're going to live and die by your ability to get clients and get clients to say yes. If you aren't good at that bit or can't get very good at that bit relatively quickly, it's going to be a really difficult experience. So I think when you first get started, you kind of feel a bit like you're in this washing machine with like you're spinning around and there's a million things going on and you could be pulled in a million directions. And it's challenging to, I guess, make the choice around how much of my time and energy do I put into these different areas? Because all of a sudden now you've gone from being an advisor, maybe in a large institution, to going, right, well, I've got to think about my website and marketing and Google reviews and like, my client experience and what happens before my meetings and, implementation and referral partnerships and building this and building that and so on. And you've probably got a million ideas, right? You've got a million, but the challenge is, how do I say no in the short term to enough of those things so I can focus on the most important things? And, in the short term, that's just getting clients, making sure you've got a real strategy around who are the clients we're looking for and how am I going to get in front of them? And making sure when you get a chance to get in front of them, you turn them from someone that could be a client into a client. And if that bit is really daunting for you, or that bit is really challenging for you, i.e. taking someone that hasn't had advice and making them an advice client and paying what they need to pay, then you're probably better off in the employed role rather than the business role. That would be my short-term advice. My long-term advice, whether you want to be a big business or a small business or something in between, is obsess over your client experience. From day one to day zillion, think about what kind of experience do we want to give people, and always be building that. But big picture, like we were talking about earlier, but also the little things are the big things. Like go the extra mile all the time. Every little detail matters. And in the long run, if you get your client experience right and people love being a client, you'll be just fine. You'll have a steady stream of people wanting your help for as long as you want a steady stream of people wanting your help, if you get that bit right.
Yeah. Well, hallelujah to that. I think the other thing I would say is that what's evident to me, Corey, is that you've had an incredible vision from obviously as a young man, a very young man starting out, and you identified very quickly in your career path who you wanted to be and what it is that you wanted to achieve. And I think, that in itself is almost the starting point, is to know what the vision is, because then, as you say, getting those clients and knowing the right client to get is so very important, because all those other components become, part of the puzzle as you grow. So we don't start at the end, do we?
Don't.
Well, I have to say thank you so much. I do feel like, as I said, this is a huge subject, and when I, suggested we talk about it, you could literally do an entire podcast on all three of these subjects: team culture, client experience, and marketing strategies. But I set you a challenge, and you really rose to the occasion. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Jenny. You've made it easy. Thanks for being so complimentary. I think I spent half of this podcast just blushing back here. But it's nice to be able to sit down and have a good conversation with someone that's passionate about these things as well, and someone that really understands the interconnectedness of culture, client experience, and marketing. And hopefully there's advisors out there or business owners out there listening to this, and there's been some value in it for them that can make things a little bit easier for them or give them a little bit of extra direction. So thanks for having me on, Jenny. Keep doing good things in this world. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. And I'm really excited to see what's next. It looks like there's plenty on the horizon for you, Corey.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, plenty. Likewise.
Thanks for joining us today on Financial Marketing Secrets. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, and be sure to follow me, Jenny Pearce, on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, wherever you enjoy joining the conversation. Can't wait to connect with you. I'm looking forward to sharing some more Genesis Gems with you in the next session of Financial Marketing Secrets. See you then.